All right. Numbers still going up, but Lonnie, I think we'll have you kick us off for a couple minutes after 6. I think we can start.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Welcome and good evening in the US. Good morning in the Philippines and good day wherever you are joining us from. My name is Lonnie Hessen. I am the co-founder of the Phoenixia Foundation with Lisa, and we have the mission of helping children and their families thrive. It's a fairly simple mission, but it has very broad implications, right? So we are a team of parents and specialists, including occupational therapists and speech therapists, as well as psychologists who really have a passion for helping special needs families and kids with all kinds of different needs achieve and be the best that they can be. So we try to fulfill this mission in person as often as we can. But as we all know, in person this past year has not been a possibility. So one way that we've been reaching our families is by hosting these wonderful educational webinars. And we are so lucky to have colleagues join us to provide this wonderful educational content for the Phoenixia Foundation. So thank you so much to Luna and Dawn, and I'll toss it back to Lisa to introduce.
Thanks, Lonnie. And thanks again, Luna and Dawn, for joining us for our part 2 of addressing speech, language, and learning in a virtual space. Dawn Ferreira and Lisa Luna de Curtis are both speech pathologists who have practiced individually for almost 30 years and have collaborated on multiple projects for the past 20 years. They both have private practices in San Francisco Bay Area and see children of all ages and stages with a focus on early intervention, autism, and social cognitive learning. They are passionate about what they do and enjoy coaching families and professionals to see how small changes can make a big impact. They have presented together locally, statewide, and for their national association, and have written numerous articles focusing on how to maximize the use of technology with children. Dawn and Luna have had the pleasure of working with Phoenixia for the past 8 years, doing in-person presentations on a variety of topics, including social language learning, while using mobile technology. They both support the work that the Phoenixia Foundation is doing to bring support and education to international communities. So with that, I will let them start the presentation. We'll go about 15 minutes. If those of you that are on Facebook and live, please, any questions that you have, we're monitoring it. Put them in the comment section, and we would really love for those of you who are on the webinar to please use the Q&A and ask questions throughout. We'll make sure to get to your questions at the end, and that is not, we will make sure also we'll send out an FAQ after. So thanks, Luna and Dawn. I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Good morning and good evening. And like Lonnie said, good afternoon, wherever you are. Dawn and I are so happy to be back here today for part 2 of assessing speech, language, and learning in a virtual space, the challenges and choices. So if you joined us last time, well, actually, if you're new and you're just coming in for part 2, but maybe you missed us last time, that's okay. We'll be reviewing a bit of what we talked about and demonstrating lots of different activities for you to learn from. If you did join us last time, welcome back, and know that after we do a review, we will be doing a deeper dive into areas that are challenging and choices for you to make. So, like I said, we're happy to be back. Dawn, let's get us started.
Hi.
All right. So let's review from last time. We talked a lot about challenges, and we talked about challenges for the child, for the family, and for the professionals, right? We also talked about opportunities that this past year has given us while working virtually. This was not by choice for most of us, and I feel like we all had to build the capacity to learn differently. All of us, the parents, the professionals, and the children, we all had to figure out how to do it differently. We struggled a lot, but we had a lot of choices. And Dawn and I will talk about our 8 Ps framework that we introduced last time. And that was how we structured our sessions. And that was how we gave ourselves lots of choices while working with kids virtually, to make sure we were constantly thinking in terms of this 8 Ps framework. So we're happy to share that with you. We will be sharing apps again. We shared some last time and we'll be doing it again. Dawn will be showing her favorites, and there's a list of resources in the back. And if you have the mobile technology to use those specific apps, that's great. And if you don't, she'll still model some great techniques to use while you're using any technology you have. And all throughout, we will be giving tips and tools how to keep people's attention, right, Dawn?
That's right, Luna, you got it.
And we will be demonstrating different ways that we get kids' attention, okay? A little noise, a little somethings to come, a little visual to see. And then of course, we will be talking about our future content that we'll be collaborating with the Phoenicia Foundation in the future. So stay tuned for that. And with that, let's go to the next part. So in review, I think these visuals do a great summary of what we talked about. The child's laying on the chair, right? I think we've all felt like that, just totally done, cannot stand looking at the screen anymore or being part of virtual learning. We also talked about Dawn's client, currently with markers up his nose, just having fun with it, wanting to make Dawn laugh and trying to be creative with it. And we talked about the importance of just having fun, grabbing that child's attention and then making the connection. And then that child's down at the bottom, looking at the computer, my 5.5-year-old, who I talked about last week, he went through this cycle. He went from being that kid who couldn't look at the computer, he couldn't sit in his chair, to wanting to be silly at the computer, but still having a hard time with attention, to just 2 weeks ago, being able to sit there and wait for me to open Zoom. Mom sent me that picture by text to say, he's anticipating your arrival and waiting. And so I feel like that's kind of a way to say we've all cycled through all of these moods over the last year. So now we talked about how you could practice at home. And last week, we discussed this kind of home exercise. Perhaps you did it officially, printed it out and wrote everything down. Perhaps you did it in your head. And if it's the first time you're seeing it, that's okay. We wanted you to be able to look at this and say, exercise 1, what's a challenge I'm facing, right? So I chose, I'm going to make up one. I'm going to choose the challenge of being creative, right? That was my challenge I was facing. So the choice I made after part 1 was to pull out some puppets like Dawn had mentioned, right? So I got out my puppets, little animals I found to say, hi, Miss Luna, hi, Kermit, right? But I also got out little figures to use, okay? And even those stick figures that Dawn talked about, putting little stickers on a stick. So that was what I tried. And I definitely noticed progress in the children being more engaged, capturing their attention. The stumbling block that got in my way was maybe knowing what to do after I brought the puppets out, okay? So what I decided I will try next is practicing having conversations when I'm not in session with me and the puppet and see what feels good. And then next time I'm on, giving it another try, using my puppet and me in conversation just for fun and creativity. Now, exercise 2 was about a challenge your child might be facing. And so let's just choose one for my client that I showed you, who's 5.5. His was always coming to the screen and immediately wanting the same thing. And he would ask for this ghost. And he would say, ghost, ghost, ghost. And so that was a challenge. So the choice that we helped the child make was saying, you know what? We don't know what Miss Luna is going to be doing. Why don't you come up with 3 choices? So mom drew a picture of a ghost and a picture of a ball and a picture of a little piggy. And these are all parts of stories that he likes. So when he would come to me and say ghost, I would say, do you have any other choices? And so the progress he made was being able to point to some other choice that he had on his paper. His stumbling block that got in the way was that we couldn't get to all three of those stories in our half-hour session. So what I wanted him to try next was just choosing two. Maybe he could choose the ghost to request a story he wanted, and maybe he could just choose the pig to request another. So if you tried this, we'd like you to share any of your results in the question answer section. Maybe share how it worked for you, or ask any questions about the stumbling blocks that you came across, any of the challenges, so we could discuss further choices. So we introduced this 8Ps framework last time, and this is what Dawn and I are going to be covering tonight or this morning. So we will be talking about how to consider the population while you're virtually learning, right? Dawn and I specialize in early intervention as well as working with kids of all ages, but we really had to say, how is this going to work for the younger kids versus the older, right? What our purpose was going to be with virtual learning. What was our plan to make the most effective goals and how we were going to translate them for virtual learning. And then, of course, priority in each session, what our priority was going to be. And sometimes, like I mentioned, it was just going to be to build the capacity of the child's attention to increase little by little each time. Every time we brought something else out, how could the child just engage a little more if we just show them something, right? Not paying attention, and maybe I just say, hey, and just pique their interest. We're going to talk, Dawn will talk about the problem solving, how to deal with those challenges, especially in the moment. She'll talk about how to change positioning. Again, in the moment, we talked about those kids who maybe need a pillow behind their back, or maybe they need their feet on a box so that they're not dangling. Maybe they need a blanket wrapped around them, or they need to be sitting on someone's lap, okay? Maybe we need to just bring their attention to, wow, that sounds noisy. It sounds like a window's open. How can we change that? She'll discuss, of course, lots of different ways to play while you're virtually learning. And then pivot. One of the most important, how to switch things up right there and then. The child's not paying attention, how to give a quick little sound to maybe bring that attention back. So for me, as I thought about my population, my purpose, I really had to think, what will I do for my littles, like my 2- and 3-year-olds on a Zoom call, versus my 5-year-olds who are not in school yet, versus my school-age kids who are used to being led by a teacher. And I really had to think, especially for early intervention, where I would go in the child's home and maybe the family would be there and we would engage together. Now I really had to just capture the child's attention, right? And say, hello. And I really had to then cue the parents to say, now I want you to just pick up the ball that's sitting next to him and just drop it and see what he does. Now I want you to take his favorite car and hide it. Put it in your pocket and let's see what the child does, okay? Versus my older kids who were able to maybe attend a little longer, I had to find ways that we could play cards online, okay? Or we could play, Connect Four. I always liked playing, and I would show them the board in front of them. But those, every time before starting, we had to think, okay, what's the child's stage? For my child, 5.5-year-old who had autism, and again, only started out with maybe 2 minutes, we really had to expand it to much longer, to at least 30, 45 minutes, now an hour. And just recently, that child was able to start sitting alone without his mom there after he was done with lunch and he wanted more. And we cued him to ask for more. Mom was able to go in the kitchen and make more. And he was able to have the capacity to stay and attend and connect with me. And I mean, I really did have to, pull out a lot of different things that I had Just to get him to be intrigued and say, oh no, you're leaving. Look, this has me feeling worried. Well, he ended up, again, being able to now do it with me alone. So little by little. And then next, when we look at our parents, you see here, a man, we assume is the dad with the child. That's where the most important connection is. It's not with me. It's about how can we cue dad to say, hey, dad, make a silly face, right? And see if the child does it too. Just stick out your tongue and see what the child does. Or start a chase game and see what the child does, okay? Because again, it's always about that child, either parent focused, me training the parent, or parent support and me just letting the parent know what to do. Or if they're older and capable, then just child focused, bringing out what the child is interested in, like Star Wars, and saying, how can we play with that? And then our next two P's, plan and prioritize. Really, we've always have been used to creating goals, but now creating goals with the greatest area of need in mind, and how does that translate virtually, okay? So we really need to make sure my specific goal might have been, I just need him to tune into my story, okay? He doesn't have to answer any questions. He doesn't have to say anything. I just need to have him tune in. And that's a hard thing to measure, but I would say each page I could get him to look at least for 10 seconds, okay? And was it achievable? Well, in the beginning, it might have only been 1 or 2 seconds, but then we could make it to 10 seconds. And realistically, I needed to let the mom know his attention would vacillate and that would be okay. I had ways that we could bring him back. And I could say, Jazz, oh, hello. Look, because I brought out a pig and I brought out the pig's house and I wanted to make a whole story. I wanted to be the pig, right? And say, little pig, let me in. Do my whole pig story. But you know what Jack wanted to do? He wanted to get under his covers on his bed and tune everybody out. And in prioritizing, I needed to say, that's okay. Not a problem. Let him be. I will make the sounds of the wolf, okay? And I was playing a video that also had wolf sounds in the background. And when he looks, I'll be able to make a little face and I'll be able to say, I'm gonna huff and puff and blow your house in, right? And let him enjoy it. And that was part of being realistic, okay? And timely. Again, we had to really work up to an hour. So when you're deciding the goals that are most important, you need to really, I might say, think about it. Let me think about it. What's gonna work? And if it's not, what are we gonna cancel and change, okay? How are we gonna keep that attention and how are we gonna keep the kid engaged? Dawn, on to you.
Thank you so much. I've turned on my video now so you can see me. Hello and welcome. Problem solving and positioning. So here's a problem that I have because I'm using my iPad. I don't have a desktop or a laptop. I do everything on my iPad, which is great because it allows me to use apps with my clients. But it's also difficult because when I share my screen like I was doing, you can't see me. The client can't see me. So now I've got my iPhone up here and you can see me. The video is now on and I'm looking at the presentation at the same time. So that is a problem that I had to solve for this. It happens a lot. There are a lot of technical issues, right? I'm right by my router, you know, but still I have this fear that maybe I'll lose connection. It happens. Where I live, it's windy. Sometimes the internet goes down. Sometimes there is an interruption. I have to be prepared for that. Sometimes let's say I forgot to charge my iPad. Well, I have my phone here. And if I have to switch to using my phone, do the Zoom on phone, I can do that. That's happened with my clients too, where they're not able to access Zoom, which is the platform I typically use. And so we have to switch to FaceTime on their phone. So what's really awesome about this virtual learning is that we have a lot of options, whether you're going to use an iPad, a phone, a laptop, a desktop. If you're going to be outside or inside or even in the car. Both Luna and I have had the experience of our clients being in the car, not wanting to miss a session. And although it can be very distracting for me to have the car moving, all the sound from the wind and all of that, but the clients are quite dedicated to having their sessions. I've had clients at the beach. That's been noisy, but beautiful. So those are issues that we can address because we can be flexible with it. Lots of environmental distractions happen all the time. And I have a dog and I have a cat. Frequently, there's commotion going on. If I have my door closed, the dog is often scratching to get in, and I have to say, just 1 second, and then I open the door. Then, of course, the dog wants to go out. But that's also an opportunity for me to start talking about dogs. If it's a younger child, I might ask questions like, what does a dog say? What do you think my dog looks like? And then I can show the child the dog, and then the child can then start to describe it. Or if I know that the child has a dog, we start talking about that child's dog, and we compare my dog to his dog. And it just opens up a whole thing of an opportunity for conversation, which is why, problem solving, it sometimes is that great opportunity to do a little bit more. The goal evaluation, somewhat Luna talked about this in that, I had a plan. I was going to do this with the 3 little pigs and the mask. And my client today just wanted to have a blanket over his head. So what's my goal then? Is my goal to keep him engaged? Is my goal to do the 3 little pig story? Is that the most important thing? Is my goal to work on vocabulary? Well, sometimes you have to work with what's happening. And what was happening is that the little boy was ready to be under a blanket. That gives Luna an opportunity to coach the parent. As Luna said, you're paying me to do this, so let me do this, right? She can coach the parent and say, wait a minute, let me see if I can entice him to come back with a lot of my toys, with maybe a little puppet that might show up, right? Speaking of 3 little pigs, hello, Peppa Pig here. So, these sort of things. And we have the opportunity to let the parent know it's okay that the child is deciding to do something else right now, especially if it's a younger child. And we have tools, we have things that we can do, and it's our job to get him back. Sometimes we just have to wait it out. And sometimes what we have to do is say, you know what, we should probably have a shorter session today. And that's totally okay. A lot of the time, what happens too is that once we've gotten them to the table or to wherever they're sitting on the floor, that it doesn't support their attention. So they might be in a chair where their feet cannot reach the ground. Many a times we've done this when we've worked in clinics is to, use telephone books that used to be really thick. They're really thin now, but any kind of books that you would put under their feet, right? So that it can support them having their feet flat on the ground. And that really does help to keep them more alert and organized. So you got to consider that. If you see the one picture there shows a variety of different options for seating. Yoga balls. Sometimes I will use a yoga ball myself because it helps keep me alert and interested in moving. Right now, as I'm speaking, I have a wooden disc under my feet that's like a balance board. And sometimes if I just need a little motion, you can't see it, but just imagine it. I'm moving my feet back and forth, and that helps keep me alert. Well, a child might need something like that. There are cushion inserts that you can put in a chair that allow the child to move a little bit. There are, if you see that green chair down at the bottom, that looks like a disc, that tilts. That helps with muscle control. Also, it really helps with children that need to move. They need movement to process what they're hearing and doing. So there's lots of different options. Even a rocking chair. There's a rocking chair there. And I've had kids sit in a rocking chair. I will say I do get a little dizzy watching it, but hey, if it's for the client and if they're going to pay attention, which is my number one goal, I want their attention. I want them to focus on the interaction. I want them to listen. I want them to look. They don't always have to look into the camera, but that's my number one goal. My favorite, this is my favorite, play and pivot. Playing. We want to enjoy what we're doing with our students, with our clients, with our own children. We want to enjoy it. They want to enjoy it. We want to entice them to come back and want to listen and play. So I want you to think about this. How are you going to use play in your learning sessions, in your therapy sessions? Are you going to use it as a reward for, okay, they've done these set of questions or activities, now I'm going to let them play a little bit? You can definitely do that, but my suggestion is to keep the attention, to keep the interest and the excitement, fold play into what you're doing. As I said, I use an awful lot of tools, things like, I love my picture puppets and I keep bringing them back because they're so effective. If you have a printer, you can print it out. If you don't, you can cut out a picture. If you can draw, I've drawn some pictures as well. I've also had my clients draw pictures, looking to see if I have one I can pull out. I have clients that can draw really well. I have them draw. So the little boy that had the markers in his nose, he drew the Pink Panther, which is just so great. And then he sent it to me and I printed it out and I made it a puppet. And this is very motivating for him. He's quite excited about seeing one of his drawings become a puppet that then joins us in the session. The other thing about play is, you know, if we can engage children to laugh and feel good, they have no idea that they're actually doing therapy or doing a specific learning task, right? I will be showing you in the next slide some of the apps that I do use, which is also considered play. We're being playful, but we're also stimulating the thinking, we're stimulating the language, we're stimulating the learning with that. Today, I had a client who I've seen for years, and he's an adult, but he started with me as a 7-year-old. And what we would do prior to the pandemic and not being able to see people in person, what we would do is I would take him on outings, right? And we would play games, board games. We'd go have coffee. We'd play board games. So now we can't do that, but we've continued to see one another. His favorite game is the board game called Sorry. And the way that we've worked this out is that he has a Sorry game and I have a Sorry game. And we set it up so his tokens are on the board, my tokens are on the board. And you pick cards. If you've never played Sorry, you pick cards and it tells you what to do, how to move, that sort of thing. And what is so fantastic is that he has to explain to me what we are doing. He has to say to me, okay, I am moving 11 spaces and now I'm on the blue circle, right? So I then have to like find it. I have to move his piece and then I have to move my piece. So that, and I really complimented him a lot today because his speech was so very clear. His direction was so clear. It was so awesome. It was just fantastic. So that's another way that we play. This client, I laugh with all the time. And like I said, I've seen him for years. So the pivot, right? What's my backup plan? What if, and I had to do this today with another client, what if my client is super tired? What if my client is focused? In fact, this one client I worked with prior to going on Zoom with me was playing with a book that she loves, absolutely loves. And she is a client that has somebody with her to keep her on track. Also, it's a safety issue for her. She has a seizure disorder, so she needs somebody by her side. But she was really fixated on this one book that has been a favorite of hers for years. And the person who was with her was trying to get the book away and trying to get her attention away, but her attention was focused on this book. So what I said is, nope, leave it, let me use it. The book happened to be Brown Bear. And so I said to her, okay, tell me, I asked the person working with her to move the book away from her, but we were going to continue to talk about Brown Bear. And I asked her, tell me which animals are in Brown Bear? Which animals do you see? So I had a completely different plan there. I had something else we were going to work on. We were going to work on spelling. And well, I couldn't because she was focused on that. But instead of using the energy to stick to my agenda, I switched. I moved it. And I was able to ease her on out of it, right? And then eventually we did some of what I had planned, but it happened to be a day that she was extremely tired. So I would say to you, even if there's a distraction, right? Like the book was a distraction for her, but I incorporated into our session because what's my goal? I want her attention. I don't want to spend the time struggling to get things away from her. I want her to stay connected and focused. And I was able to meet that goal. Very important. So again, seize that moment, seize that opportunity. Have backup plans. Luna's been showing you things throughout this presentation. I have a variety of things I have access to. I will tell you one more thing about her. She likes to sing. She has lots of favorite songs. And she started singing a song that I hadn't heard her ever sing. And I started working with her when she was 3, and she is now a teenager. So what happened was she started singing a song, and all of a sudden she started singing, "He's got the whole world in his hands." And I don't know if you can see this very well, but I just happen to have this globe here that changes colors, right? So I was able to, boom, whole world in his hands, right? Do this for her. So having a lot of materials available is very helpful so that you can pivot. So think about your own flexibility, because sometimes we're trained to stick to, we have to have a goal, we have to have a session plan or a learning plan, but we also have to realize, especially in this virtual world, that we are going to have to shift. It's definitely going to be incumbent upon us to be flexible. So if that's a weakness for you, think about how you might be able to ease on out of that just a bit. Okay, now,
hey, Luna, did Dawn freeze on you?
Yes, she did. She did. Okay. So I did want to actually go to question and answers until she comes back. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because there were some great questions, okay? Somebody asked, what if the child gets disinterested fast in a particular toy, item, or gadget? Do you need to keep whipping up new objects just to keep the child interested? It's a great question. Dawn, I'm answering a question and then we'll get back to you, okay? So one of the things to keep in mind is, because we want the child interested and because we want the child engaged, it is important that we take into consideration what would do that, what would keep the child's interest. Just like Dawn was saying, attention and connection are the most important things. So while you might not want to think you have to keep pulling things out, you have to figure out, one, why are they not keeping attention? And then figure out what would it take to keep their attention. And
hey,
sometimes
am I back?
You are back, and I was just answering a question.
Great. All of a sudden the sound went down. Can you still see my screen? No.
Cannot see your screen yet.
Let me readjust that. See, this is what I'm saying. You probably think I planned this, didn't you? Maybe I did. Who knows? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Zoom here on my iPad. I'm going to connect. Uh-oh. Sorry about that.
This is the plan and pivoting that we're talking about.
Perfect.
Dawn, we can't hear you. Dawn, we can't hear you.
All right, how about that? Can you hear me now?
Hold on, wait.
Perfect.
Here's my rounds of applause.
Hey, let me give you a high five. Let me give you a high five here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna share, yeah.
We'll let Luna, she was just answering a question. So while we're waiting for you to get back up, so we'll let her finish that and then we'll have you go.
Perfect, thank you.
Up the presentation.
So I think the important part is, why is the child losing interest? I think that's always a good place to go, right? And then thinking, how can you make that connection and keep them interested? Because we know that children can't learn unless they are interested and engaged, right? So when someone else said, what if the child keeps standing up and down from time to time? That's fine. Like Dawn said, we would go with it. Maybe we too would stand up, right? And maybe we would say, okay, time for an exercise break. Imitate me. Can you do what I'm doing, right? So we want to go with it and use what the child is doing, because like Dawn is talking about, keeping the child interested and engaged really is the most important. And whether it's with toys or whether it's with singing, whether it's with just simple reading, the more we can be focused on engagement, the more we can help the child, and we won't be as worried about the child losing interest or the child standing up and down. Okay, so Perfect. I'll answer the rest of the questions later. Go ahead, Dawn, thanks.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so favorite app here. There are a series of these apps, the Nighty Night Farm, Nighty Night Forest, Nighty Night Circus. I'm gonna show you my favorite one, which is the original one, Nighty Night Farm. You can use this with children who are nonverbal, pre-verbal, emerging verbal. Okay, it's loading. All right, can you see this app? Are you able to see it? Okay, great. So you have the option of 7 animals, and all the animals, that would be about 13 animals on the farm. You can use this to elicit just sounds, to imitate animal movements, to talk about vocabulary, teach new vocabulary, to have conversations about these animals. I'll let you listen to the beginning.
Night falls. The moon is high. All the people are ready to sleep as they turn off the lights. But wait, look at the farmhouse. There are still some lights on. The animals are sleepy too. Do you want to turn off the lights?
So it starts with that question, do you want to turn off the light? Great. Even if you have a nonverbal child or one who is using an augmentative communication device, they can answer yes or no. They can shake their heads. They can make a sound for it. One of the reasons that I love this app, the illustrations are beautiful. It's not overstimulating. And then you look at this farmhouse and you're intrigued, like, let me click on one of these and let me open it up and see what it is. There's no talking. There's no explaining that this is a chicken or a hen and 2 little chicks. You can touch, I can touch it for the child. Oh, just laid an egg, right? So there's action, there's movement. There's about 3 different actions for each animal. And there's also sound. There's the sound effects. But for the older child, you can say, well, have you ever seen a chicken? Where have you seen a chicken? What do you think a chicken would sound like in real life? Things like that, right? We can extend it to make it a more sophisticated kind of conversation based on where they are. It's also repetitive. Like some of the best books have a repeating theme. Well, this has a repeating theme. It's time for bed. It's time to turn off the light.
Good night, dear chickens.
And we can act that out. Good night, dear chickens, or nighty night. If you're emerging verbal, night night, or even right, to indicate good night. And then it repeats. And there are several animals that you can look at. So let me go back to the presentation. Make sure you guys can see that. Can you see that?
Yes.
You can see it. Great. Okay. Another one that I love is Rocket Speller, and they have also Car Factory. And with this one, you can do things at a lower level, just matching or identifying letters. You can work on spelling. You can work on the left to right order. You can work on vocabulary, and you work on phonics. So I'm going to show you the Rocket Speller one. What the children do is they build a rocket by matching or spelling letters, spelling words. You have different levels. The basic level is there are words with 3 to 6 letters, and you can place them in any order. So it doesn't have to be in the correct order, right? You then all the way up to 7 to 10 letter words, and the correct order is required for that one. You can do upper and lower case, which is really nice. Let me just show you this briefly. This little guy here is Zip. And if you touch him, he'll tell you his name. But you can, again, this is a higher level one, right? So you can spell it. You can ask the child to do it. Even if they can't yet do that, you can say C. Say C, U, P. And then what happens is, I'm just going to go really quickly and match some of these so we can get to what happens after you do 3. So popcorn can be working on also articulation. Popcorn, be working on that too. All right, so we have popcorn. Where again, if you're just learning letters, you're seeing the left to right order that I'm doing it in. You're hearing the words. One more before we get to make a choice here. Okay, we have backpack. All right, so backpack. So you don't have to be a reader yet to do this, but it really does help support that literacy. All right, backpack. Now what happens is that you're going to be given a choice. And because the child's not with me, they have to describe which one they want. Often I will hear, even with those kids that are highly verbal, that one, I want that one. And I'll have to say, I need more information. Give me a category. Tell me a color. Color is the easiest one to start with on this, right? So they might say, I want the blue one. And so obviously I know there's one blue one, there's one silver one. So I will get the blue one. If I need more information, I'll say, is it the one with the windows, right? The round windows. So that continues on. You get 3 pieces, and then you eventually build that rocket. Once you build the rocket, you get to collect stars, moving the rocket back and forth. Okay. Another app that I use quite often is Starfall. Starfall is an app and a website. It does require a membership on the website. The app you can purchase that has just a few of their sort of, games and books and whatnot. I use this with very young kids. I use it with kids even older than 3rd grade, but it starts at the preschool level. Let me show that to you now. And you can see that there are 2 sections, kindergarten and pre-K. There is, I use it with preschool kids a lot, even though it doesn't say preschool, I use this a lot with preschoolers. So let me show you. So you have a choice. There's a section with math tasks. There's reading, there's the simple ABCs. There's special holidays and events that are activities that you do. I'm going to show you one of the books. So these are books here. And I'm going to pick the first one is working on the short A sound. In addition to the books, there are activities, spelling activities that you can use. Lots of music is used during this.
Short A makes this kind of sound.
And it reinforces over and over again. Zach the rat. Zach. So now this is the story, right? And if I have a child that reads, so again, I use it for older kids too. Child that reads, they read it. If a child that needs a model, I let them listen first.
Zach is a rat.
And if they miss a word like is or a, I can press it, highlight it, and get them to say it. And then it's all animated too. So this is, I'm telling you, there's a lot of content here, a lot we could talk about, but I see that we're starting to run a little short on time. So I'm going to move forward, and Luna's going to talk about boom cards, something that she uses in therapy.
And I was just going to say, if we need to go over by just 5 or 10 minutes, it'll be okay.
Okay, thanks.
So these are boom cards. And in the reference list, you'll see it as boomlearning.com. So you can find it on the web or you can use the app. And here you see there's a number of activities that I have downloaded from their library. Many are free, some you pay for, and many are holiday themed, which is just kind of fun. And Dawn, if you can make it a little bigger, that would be good, because at the top you see there's a library, there's just a variety of different activities that you could use. But under classes, there is a way to have individual children's activities there in a separate folder. And what I like about the boom card idea is that I could give them control with the activity. So when we open an activity, maybe a matching activity or a build your own superhero activity, as they say the words, they themselves can move the costumes onto the superhero, or they themselves can put the puzzle pieces in. Now, that again is after the child's capacity to attend and follow directions is there, right? So once you feel like they can handle it, they can actually move things around. So I really like this. So it's worth looking into. Now, on other tips and tricks and tools and techniques that we have, you've seen us demonstrate a lot of them. And someone asked a really good question. Wouldn't these puppets just interfere with learning? Wouldn't that get in the way of attention? For me and Dawn, we believe we want to capture the child's attention, get the attention, make that connection, because again, that's how then we're going to be able to teach the child and learn. If the child's uninterested, right, and we're just saying, look over here, look back at me, and the child doesn't want to, I can't force the child to do that, right? But if I do say, let's see.
Her Swiper shows up.
That's right. Hi, Swiper. How are you doing? Do you know where?
Right.
Do you know where John went? I can't find him.
No, but I'm gonna call him. John. John, where are you? Come on back.
Is he under the table?
Somebody swiped, I think.
He's not under the table. No. Is he behind the chair?
Let me look. No, not there.
Uh-oh.
And by this time, most likely, we would have piqued the child's interest and they're coming, right? It is really important, as I said, when we talked about play, how important that is as part of the learning task, right? To keep it interesting, to keep them lit up in their brains. I am interested. It is normal to get tired, to have the screen fatigue, to be bored. A lot of times when I'm working on a math issue with a child, you know, they tire pretty easily. So to have these friends show up is so helpful. And it's not just for the little ones. I have an 18-year-old that I work with, and he loves video games. And so oh my gosh, he was kind of having a down day. And when I had this guy show up, he went insane. He was like all in. He was like, what? You know about Mario? I was like, yep, I do. So you can use it with older kids too. There's a variety of things you can do. It's how you use it.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Luna. I'm just saying, it's how you use it. It is how you're going to use it. The number one goal is enticement, enjoyment, a buy-in. I like this, right? That's what we want. So again, that's the whole thing about abandoning your agenda. You know, you have a task, a homework sheet that you need to do, but it's super important. If we don't have attention, we don't have a buy-in. It's not going to happen. Go ahead, Luna.
And if you remember the photo that we showed earlier, if you were here, it was a picture of my client, 5.5 with autism, who after 8 months learned to sit and wait. Now when mom says, okay, it's time for Miss Luna, now, not always, but sometimes he will sit there and wait because he knows when he comes on, I don't say to him, okay, sit down, it's time to get to work. I go like this.
Exactly.
Ta-da!
Right.
It's a brush. Or I say, I'm looking for a ball. No, that's not a ball. All right, let's see. I think I have a ball now. Rawr. No, that's not a ball. Oh, here it is. Look, I have a ball. Can you go get a ball? And that's another thing that sometimes people think is distraction. Parents might think the child's getting up and leaving can be distracting. But again, if the child gets up and leaves, maybe because we say, can you go find your ball and bring it back? Or maybe because the child's bored. It's okay, because a lot of times I'll say, don't ask him to come back. Let me entice him. Maybe play his favorite song, or maybe sing a song that gets him back. Or maybe I tell the mom, just say, oh, I can't believe Luna has this, just to pique the child's interest. So when another question came up about does reward and punishment, is that an effective way to connect with the learner? I always say, I can't really force my kids to sit and listen and watch what I'm doing. I really can't. And I don't want their parents to do that either. What I can do though, like Dawn spoke about last time in part 1, and again in our 8Ps, speaking about setting up expectations, we can make it clear, like, hey, I have your special book here. If you want to read it, you let me know you're ready. When you're sitting down in your chair, I'll know you're ready. I can't wait to read it. This is the part you might love. You're still not quite ready. So I would say we want natural consequences that you can't have the book until we're ready. You let me know when you're ready, okay? And if the child really can't do it, it's okay to say, you know what? That's okay. We can try again later. Because like I started by saying in the beginning of the presentation, we're all building our capacity to do virtual learning, okay? All of us. So
yes, you're also on the goal. You are evaluating what is your goal today. You know, you have to switch it up a little bit. Sometimes you have to find a simpler goal, which is just to get the attention. One of the things that I use a lot of sound effects. So I use my iPad and then I have my phone, and there's a lot of apps that have different sounds on it, but you know, guess that sound game. So I want you all to listen to this. And if you know what character it is, please type it in the chat. Play it one more time. Think cartoons. Yes, whoever. All right. Martina, good job. Woody Woodpecker, you are good job. Very good. Things like that, right? Little things like that that will get your auditory attention. Using percussion instruments. If you don't have instruments, sticks. If you don't have sticks, on your desk, getting them to imitate a beat. All kinds of things like that you can do to get the attention back, to make it fun. Today, I was wearing a rainbow wig with a crown on when I saw my last client of the day, and she could not stop laughing. She had so much fun. My goals with her were to work on articulation. And so I had her attention. I need her looking straight into the camera because I need her to look at what I'm doing. It happened to be a co-treat. There was an OT that was actually seeing her in person in her office. And then I was a speech therapist, and we co-treated that way, combining virtual with in-person. So the OT was able to then let her get up, move, swing. Her favorite character is Swiper. She was able to talk to Swiper while she was swinging, right? And then I could give her specific things to say. We were working on lip closure for the B and the P and the M, and she had to talk to Swiper, right? But she had to have her lips together for ball and baby and bear. And Swiper would say, I can't hear it. I'm going to come over there and swipe your swing. Put those lips together, right? Super effective, super playful. This child was really sad that we had to end the session, but you know, that's because she loved it so much. So it's not such a chore for her. It's fun. Yep. I have to say a word about why do I have a tissue box there? It's because I used to tell Luna I would like to just only work with tissues. And this is when I was working with very young children in early intervention, just getting them to see if I'm working on those early sounds, those plosive sounds, the P and the B. Some children, for example, you may have worked with some children that don't know how to pucker and blow air out, right? So I'd put it on my face, anticipation, right? And I'd go, right? And it floats back down. And this is in person and also via Zoom or virtually, right? So, and then tissues can become snowballs for Olaf, right? Can do that. Olaf can blow his nose, achoo, sound effect, right? Also, I will do this too in order to get attention. I will cover the camera. I will cover it, right? So they'll say, what happened? Where are you? Where did you go? Boom, here I am, right? So even something as simple as tissues can become a ghost. It can become a mummy. It can become a mask, right? Simple things that you can use. So that's why I included that on there. Now, I have to tell you, Luna and I have many more tips and tricks. I have many more apps that I'd like to show you. We have many more theories we'd like to discuss, many more things we'd like to share with you that we've learned in our long careers. So we're encouraging you to stay tuned. We would like to collaborate more with Phoenicia. And we're hoping to possibly do a video series that would be posted on the YouTube channel that Phoenicia has, that you could access and look at short little 5 to 10 minute things, that subjects that we talk about. So I want to thank you all so much for joining us. And I know that we went a little long, so Luna's been monitoring the questions. So if there are any specific questions that you'd like answered now, or Luna that you would like to answer, or Lisa, if you have anything in mind, please let us know. I'm going to turn off.
I do want to mention that someone was asking about how teachers can effectively evaluate very methodically and technically the participation and interaction between learners and teachers in a virtual learning environment. How do you ensure the quality of the virtual class to learners? And because Dawn and I work individually or in small groups online, we're not able to speak about how a teacher would carry that over to a classroom. And then because somebody else mentioned about how do we help those families who don't even have access to virtual learning? That's just not an option. How do we support those parents and the community in addressing the needs of those children who don't have this access? And what I would say is, even if there is a phone call, I have done consults on a phone where I've said, let me talk you through what you can do. Tell me what's happening and I can offer suggestions. So we really try. I've even said, let me make a video and where can I send it? Can I send it to your email for you to show the child? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I really try to meet the child where the child's at. And the last question I'll take, somebody said, is it necessary to give a reward in every activity that is done or accomplished? Does it depend on the situation? And Dawn had mentioned, we won't do like separate rewards, like here's a sticker or, here's a, give the kid a piece of candy. We don't do those type of external rewards that are not really connected with the session. We really let our enthusiasm for what the child did be a lot of the reward. Or we really say now, hey, why don't you pick a song that we can dance to now that we've finished our book? So we really try to make it something that is fun for us, fun for the child. So I hope that helps. If we didn't get to your question, Sure, like Lisa said, we could find other ways to do that, and I could let her decide that.
And I just also wanted to add on around, you know, those who are coming from situations in the, you know, lower or middle incomes who may not have access to services. That is one of the main reasons that we're doing this webinar series, because almost anybody can get access now these days to the internet. And if they can, we would love for you guys to be able to share this information with any and every parent, teacher, caretaker, and then those who may not have access. And if you are actually there supporting these families, that you can take these learnings and go into those provincial areas and share your learning with those families. And so the main reason that we're doing this, that is our mission. So whoever asked that question, I want to give you big kudos for asking it. And also, if you can just help spread the word, we would just so greatly appreciate it. And another question that came up is, I know people are really interested in apps that are on Android versus iOS. And so I'll work with Dawn and Luna for us to put together maybe a list that we can post on our Facebook page, because we do know that, you know, lots of folks don't always have more Android versus iPhone. And so I know that Dawn has that list, and so we'll make sure to get that to you.
I do.
And would you like to add anything?
Well, I would like to say thanks, everyone. And I'm hoping that you have a great day, since it's in the mornings, approaching afternoon soon. But I'd like to just say thank you so much for stopping by. And thank you to Phoenicia. Thank you both, Lisa and Lonnie. Thank you so much for starting this foundation and letting us be a part of it.
Agreed.
Hey, Lonnie, do you want to have any closing? I think you're on mute.
Just thank you to Dawn and Luna for joining us for the last 2 weeks. And I'm so glad I was able to make this week work. And we hope that everyone has a lovely weekend ahead, and go back and watch on our YouTube channel and or our Facebook page. If you missed any of it, these webinars are always available on those two platforms. So thanks everybody, and have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.